Eloise Granger ate her husband's heart with a glass of red wine and no regrets. They said the Grangers had the perfect life. From the outside, their house stood like a painting, white picket fence, roses coiled lovingly around the porch rails, fresh shutters in a warm hunter green. Children walking home from school would slow as they passed it, drawn to the scent of Eloise Granger's baking or the soft sound of piano drifting through the open windows. Adults admired the couple's poise at church events, envied their elegant garden parties, and gossiped lazily about their good fortune. But facades are always most beautiful when they are hiding something rotten underneath. Eloise had met Leonard when she was just 21, a quiet girl with a talent for drawing and a fear of disappointing others. He was older by 10 years, impossibly confident, the kind of man who entered a room and bent every gaze toward him. He wooed her with expensive dinners and handwritten letters, with long walks where he spoke only of her and of the life they could build together. He painted a future in soft golds and tender blues. She married him without hesitation. The first year was good. Maybe even the second. But by the third, the gold had dulled. By the fourth, she began to learn the vocabulary of isolation. Leonard Granger was a man who believed loyalty was owed, but not reciprocated. His affairs began quietly, business trips that stretched into weekends, lipstick on collars explained away with careless charm. Eloise did not confront him at first. She swallowed the truth, just as she swallowed her pride, one bitter bite at a time. When the lies grew bolder, so did the bruises, not always on her skin, but deep beneath it, invisible things that changed the way she walked, the way she spoke, the way she looked at herself in the mirror. She endured. Until the day she found the box. It was tucked at the back of his closet, hidden behind golf shoes and a briefcase filled with receipts from hotels she'd never visited. The box was velvet, the color of old blood. Inside were photographs, dozens of them. Women in silk and lace, women asleep, women crying. None of them were her. One picture had her name scrawled on the back. But it wasn't her in the frame. And there was a journal. He wrote about them like a collector admiring rare insects. Code observations. Names, dates, places. She was a category, she realized. Wife, stable. Predictable. Background support. She wasn't a person to him, but a placeholder. A role to be played. Eloise closed the box, her hands trembling. But something inside her had gone still, like the surface of water right before the storm. The transformation was slow, deliberate. She stopped crying. She stopped asking questions. She began learning things instead, about poisons and sedatives, about anatomy and butchery. She signed up for a cooking class under the guise of rekindling romance, and Leonard, vain as ever, praised her for trying to be interesting again. He never noticed the subtle shift in her eyes when she looked at him. Their 13th wedding anniversary was approaching, and she planned the evening with precision. She bought him a new watch, one that gleamed gold like the lies he wore. She cooked a lavish meal, braised duck, wild mushroom risotto, and a wine so dark it stained the lips. For dessert, she made heart-shaped chocolate mousse. Leonard toasted her, spoke of many more years while his hand slid to her thigh beneath the table. She smiled. The sedative she'd mixed into his wine took 20 minutes to take effect. By the time he staggered toward the bedroom, his body was leaden, pliable. Eloise helped him onto the bed, kissed his cheek, and whispered, "Just rest, my love." In the basement, she had prepared everything. The table was stainless steel. The knives, sharpened and arranged like a surgeon's instruments. She had read enough to know what to do, and grief had long since given way to something steadier. Not rage. Not even hatred. Purpose. When Leonard woke, he was strapped down, his eyes wide and wild. Eloise stood above him, dressed in white, her apron already smeared with red. He screamed. Of course he did. But the walls were thick, and the neighbors were far. She leaned close. "You took my heart," she said, her voice calm, "so I'm taking yours." The procedure was crude, messy, but effective. She removed it with the reverence of a lover, held it in her hands and watched as life drained from the man who had once promised her the world and delivered only ash. She didn't eat it right away. That would have been too cinematic, too weak. She cleaned it, cooked it, seasoned it with rosemary and garlic. And she sat at the table, alone, lit only by candlelight, and chewed slowly, thoughtfully. Later, she called the police. They found the house immaculate. Leonard's body was laid out upstairs, dressed in his finest suit, hands folded over a single rose. The heart was gone, but Eloise offered no explanation. She wore red lipstick and a distant expression. "I did what was just," she said at her trial. The courtroom was silent, mesmerized. The photos, the journal, the bruises that had never been reported, the women he had used. They painted a fuller picture than any defense could. The jury found her guilty, but asked for leniency. The judge, moved by something he couldn't name, reduced her sentence. Eloise never wept. Not once. Even behind bars, she held her spine straight and her head high. The other inmates called her the widow and gave her space. There were rumors she wrote a book, that she received fan letters, that someone wanted to turn her story into a film. But she never spoke of that night again. Not about the meal. Not about the heart. Except once. A young journalist came to visit her, years later. He asked why she did it. Why she didn't just leave. Eloise leaned forward, her dark eyes locked onto his. "I didn't want to leave him," she said. "I wanted him to know what it feels like to be consumed. Piece by piece.